Hello, my name is Aimee Jorgensen, and I would like to introduce to you a CSS layout tutorial for CIT 230 front-end development. In this presentation, I will go over some basic CSS layout topics that will help you to become more familiar with how to style a CSS style page for creating more visual appeal to your website. First of all, what is CSS layout? CSS page layout techniques allow us to take elements contained in a web page and control where they are positioned. This static default positioning is called normal layout flow. The position they are in is relative to the other elements around them, such as their parent container and the main viewport window. Because this has no styling and is in a static position, we have a lot of work to do to make it look a little more exciting and entertaining for those that are watching. Let's talk about the display. It's the most important property for controlling layout. Every element has a default display value depending on what type of element it is. The default for most elements is usually block or inline. You can see in this example of how a block element will line itself under the last stated element. Common block level elements are the div, header, footer, section, and many, many more. A block level element starts on a new line and stretches out to the left and right as far as it can. Inline elements, however, will line themselves up side by side, left to right, for as long as the web page or window allows, and continues on the next line down. These are their default display values. Span is the standard inline element. An inline element can wrap some text inside a paragraph, a span, without disrupting the flow of that paragraph. An example of the A element is the most common inline element, and they are used for links. You can see how that wouldn't disturb the flow of that paragraph by inserting a link. Another common display value is none. Some specialized elements, such as script, use this as their default. It is commonly used with JavaScript to hide and show elements without really deleting and recreating them. This is different from visibility. Setting display to none will render the page as though the element does not even exist. Visibility and hidden will hide the element, but the element will still take up the space it would if it was fully visible. Margin. If one wants to have a container that limits the length and width attributes, they might use the width attribute and set a value. This will prevent horizontal stretching. To center the text horizontally, you can set the margin to 0 followed by auto. The only problem with this solution is if you have a smaller browser window, a horizontal scroll bar will appear. A better solution would be to style your element container with max width and a value. This works much better for small windows. The box model. What about sizing your box horizontally and vertically? If you use a simple model of width and height, you may be able to style a simple element, but watch out. When you add padding and borders, it can actually stretch the total dimensions of your container, making it harder to keep it to a specified width. Sizing will be hard to control when it's done this way. Best to use box sizing, which prevents increases to the width of the element. Since this is so much better, some authors want all elements on their pages to always work this way. Such authors put the following CSS on their pages. Try the prefix WebKit box sizing border box, followed by Moz box sizing border box or box sizing border box. Position. Static is a default position and has no styling. Relative behaves the same unless you tell it what to do. Changes made will push it away from its normal position. Changes to the left will actually push it to the right. Changes to the top will push it down, and so on. The fixed position means it always stays in the same place, even if the page is scrolled up and down. Fixed except relative to the nearest positioned ancestor instead of relative to the viewport. It will stay inside its parent but move up and down the viewport when it's scrolled. Float and clear. Have you ever wanted to wrap text around an image? This is best done by using float. Float can move an element left, right, none, or inherit the position from the parent element. In this example, you can see float left, float right, clear, and both. Clear pushes sections down below the floated div so they don't end up overlapping each other. Sometimes you can have unwanted results when they are too close together, or one sitting or floating on top of the other one. Best to use clear to push the section down below the floated div. What if your image is floated to the right, but it is extending past the size of your box container? This can be a great advantage to you, but sometimes you want the image to stay the same dimension as the container. Try using the Clear Fix hack by using Overflow Auto. There's also another way to style your image. You can use the percent width. Percent width is when you apply a measurement unit relative to the containing block. It's great for images. You could make an image that is always 75% the width of its container. You could change the widths as you like, only remember that it should always add up to 100% in total. You could add a maximum width or a minimum width, but sometimes the minimum and maximum width aren't always respected. What do we do then? Let's discuss inline block layout. It allows you to vertically align the tops of two elements in an inline block and set the width unit. The other two containers will align to the side of the element as shown, with the navigational element above, and then continue to align in an inline block pattern where there is space to do so. In this example, both columns are aligned to the right of the navigational container, but the second column positions itself underneath the first column. Let's talk about Flexbox. This will be a lesson that would take far too long to discuss in full today. But Flexbox is a new way, the latest and greatest layout syntax to make columns. The prefixes will simplify the positioning process. You'll want to set your minimum and maximum window sizes before adding the flex syntax. A flex layout consists of parent elements with one or more child elements. You might be able to use things such as flex direction, flex wrap, flex flow, justify content, align items, and align content. This is an advanced lesson for a later presentation. You can also use this for vertical centering. As shown in the example, the text is centered vertically instead of horizontally, and including actually horizontally. We use Display WebKit Flex, Display Flex, WebKit Align Items Center, Align Items Center, WebKit Justify Content Center, and Justify Content Center. This is the most common CSS structure. A header is usually located at the top of the website or right below a top navigation menu. It often contains a logo or the website name. A navigation bar contains a list of links to help visitors navigating through your website. Below that is the main content. The layout in this section often depends on the target users. The most common layout is one or combining them of the following: 1, 2, or 3 columns. The footer is placed at the bottom of your page. It often contains information like copyright and contact information. This is a basic CSS layout. On the left, we've added coloring to it so that you can see how you can start styling and having fun with a basic CSS layout on your next design. Thank you. Again, my name is Aimee Jorgensen, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation of CSS layout.